Hi everyone, we've got a slightly long chapter today, so we're going to get started. So let's see what our chapter's called. Here's the contents page, and our chapter today is called The Weekly Test. Now yesterday was very exciting. Remember, Lavender put the newt in the jug, and we're waiting to see what's going to happen with the Trunchbull. So let's get started. At 2 o'clock sharp, the assembly started, including Miss Honey, who noted the jug of water and the glass were in their proper place. Oh, the class assembled, sorry. She took up her position, standing right at the back. Everyone waited, and suddenly in marched a gigantic figure of the headmistress, in her belted smock and green breeches. "Good afternoon, children," she barked. "Good afternoon, Miss Trunchbull," they chirped. The headmistress stood before the class, legs apart, holding her hips, glaring at the small boys and girls who sat nervously at their desks in front of her. "Not a very pretty sight," she said. Her expression was one of utter distaste, as though she were looking at something a dog had done in the middle of the floor. "What a bunch of nauseating little warts you are." So basically it means it makes her feel a bit sick, nauseous. Everyone had the sense to stay silent. It makes me vomit," she went on, "to think that I'm going to have to put up with a load of garbage like you in my school for the next 6 years. I can see that I'm going to have to expel as many of you as possible, as soon as possible, to save myself from going round the bend." She paused and she snorted several times. It was a curious noise. You can hear the same sort of thing if you walk through a riding stables when the horses are being fed. "I suppose," she went on, "your mothers and fathers tell you are wonderful. Well, I'm here to tell you the opposite. You'd better believe me. Stand up, everybody." Now they all quickly got to their feet. "Now put your hands in front of you, and as I walk past I want you to turn them over so I can see they're clean on both sides." The Trunchbull began to slowly march along the rows of desks, inspecting the hands. All went well until she came to a small boy in the second row. "What's your name?" she barked. "Nigel," said the boy. "Nigel what?" "Nigel Hicks," said the boy. "Nigel Hicks what?" the Trunchbull bellowed. She bellowed so loud that she nearly blew the little chap out of the window. "That's it," Nigel said, "unless you want my middle names as well." He was a brave little fellow that no one could see that he was trying not to be scared by the Gordon who was towering above him. "No, I don't want your middle names, you blister," the Gordon bellowed. "What's my name?" "Miss Trunchbull," Nigel said. "Then use it when you address me. Now let's try again. What is your name?" "Nigel Hicks, Miss Trunchbull," Nigel said. "That's better," the Trunchbull said. "Your hands are filthy, Nigel. When did you last wash them?" "Well, let me think. That would be rather difficult to remember exactly. It could have been yesterday, or it could have been the day before." The Trunchbull's whole body and face seemed to swell as though it had been inflated as like a bicycle pump. "I knew it," she bellowed. "I knew it as soon as I saw you. There was nothing but a piece of filth. Your father's job, a sewage worker." "He's a doctor," Nigel said, "and a jolly good one. He says that we're so covered with bugs anyway that a bit of extra dirt never hurts anyone." "I'm glad he's not my doctor," the Trunchbull said. "And why, I might ask, is there a baked bean in your front of your shirt?" "We had them for lunch, Miss Trunchbull." "And do you usually put your lunch on the front of your shirt, Nigel? Is this what the famous doctor father of yours has taught you to do?" "Baked beans are hard to eat, Miss Trunchbull. They keep falling off my fork." "You're disgusting," the Trunchbull bellowed. "You're a walking germ factory. I don't wish to see you any more today. Go and stand in the corner on one leg with your face to the wall." "But, Miss Trunchbull—" "Don't argue with me, boy, or I'll have to make you stand on your head. Now, do as you're told." Nigel went. "Now stay there, boy, while I test you on your spellings to see if you've learnt anything at all in this past week. And don't turn around when you talk to me. Keep your nasty little face to the wall. Now then, spell right." Which one? Nigel asked. The thing you do with a pen, or the thing that means the opposite of wrong? He happened to be an unusually bright child, and his mother had worked hard with him at home with his spellings and his reading. The one with the pen, you little fool. Nigel spelled it correctly, which surprised the Trunchbull. She thought she had given him a tricky word, one that he wouldn't have learned, and she was peeved that he succeeded, so she was really annoyed that he actually spelt it correctly. Then Nigel said, still balancing on one leg facing to the wall, Miss Honey taught us how to spell a new, very long word yesterday. And what word was that? The Trunchbull asked softly. The softer her voice became, the greater the danger. But Nigel wasn't to know this. Difficulty, Nigel said. Everyone in the class can spell difficulty now. What nonsense, the Trunchbull said. You are supposed to learn long words like that until you are at least 8 or 9. Why don't you tell me, everyone in the class, how you can spell that word? You are lying to me, Nigel. Test someone, Nigel said, taking an awful chance. Test anyone you like. The Trunchbull's dangerous, glittery eyes moved around the room. You, she said, pointing at the tiny, rather daft little girl called Prudence. Spell difficulty. Amazingly, Prudence spelled it correctly and without a moment's hesitation. The Trunchbull was properly taken aback. Humph, she snorted. And I suppose Miss Honey wasted her one whole lesson teaching you to spell that difficult word. Oh, no, she didn't, piped Nigel. Miss Honey taught it to us in 3 minutes, so we never forget it. She teaches us lots of words in 3 minutes. And what's exactly this magic method, Miss Honey? She asked the headmistress. I'll show you, piped the brave Nigel again, coming to Miss Honey's rescue. Can I put the other foot down while I turn around, please, while I show you? You may do neither, snapped the Trunchbull. Stay as you are and show me just the same. All right, Nigel said, wobbling crazy on with his one leg. Miss Honey gives us a little song about each word, and we all sing them together, and we learn to spell it in no time. Would you like to hear the song about difficulty? I should be fascinated, the Trunchbull said in a voice dripping with sarcasm, so it means she doesn't really want to hear it. Here it is, Nigel said. Mrs. D, Mrs. I, Mrs. F, F, I, Mrs. C, Mrs. U, Mrs. L, T, Y. That spells difficulty. That's perfectly ridiculous, snorted Trunchbull. Why are those women all married? And anyway, you're not meant to teach poetry when you're teaching spelling. Cut it out in the future, Miss Honey. But it does teach them some of the harder words wonderfully well, Miss Honey muttered. Don't argue with me, Miss Honey, the headmistress thundered. Just do as you're told. I shall now test the rest of the class on the multiplication tables to see if Miss Honey has taught you anything at all in that direction. The Trunchbull had returned to her place at the front of the class, and her now diabolical gaze was moving slowly along the rows of the tiny pupils. You, she barked, pointing at a small boy called Rupert in the front row. What is 2 sevens? 16, Rupert asked, answering with a foolish abandon. The Trunchbull started advancing slowly, soft-footed upon Rupert, in a manner of tiger stalking a small deer. Rupert suddenly became aware of the danger signals and quickly tried again. It's 18, he cried back. 2 sevens are 18, not 16. You ignorant little slug, the Trunchbull bellowed. You witness weed, you empty-headed hamster, you stupid glob of glue. She had now stationed herself directly behind Rupert, and suddenly she extended a hand the size of a tennis racket and grabbed the hair on Rupert's head in her fist. Rupert had a lot of golden-coloured hair. His mother thought it was beautiful to behold and took extra delight in allowing it to grow extra long. The Trunchbull had a great dislike for long hair on boys, and as she had for plaits and pigtails on girls, and she was about to show it. She took a firm grip of Rupert's long tresses with her giant hand, and then, raising her muscular arm, she lifted the helpless boy clean out of his chair and held him aloft, which means she held him really high. Rupert yelled, he twisted and squirmed, he kicked in the air, and yelling like a stuck pig, Miss Trunchbull bellowed. 2 sevens are 14! 2 sevens are 14! I'm not letting you go till you say it." At the back of the class, Miss Honey cried out, "Miss Trunchbull, please let him down. You're hurting him, or his hair might come out." "And as well if he doesn't stop wriggling," snorted the Trunchbull. "Keep still, you squirming worm." It was really quite an extraordinary sight to see the giant headmistress dangling the small boy high in the air, and the boy spinning and twisting like something on the end of a string, shrieking his head off. "Say it!" bellowed the Trunchbull. "Say 2 sevens are 14. Hurry up, or I'll start jerking you up and down, and your hair really will come out, and we'll have enough of the stuff to stuff a sofa. Get on with it, boy. Say 2 sevens are 14, and I'll let you go." "2 sevens are 14, gasped Rupert. Whereupon the Trunchbull, true to her word, opened her hand and quite literally let him go. He was a long way off the ground when he realised that he had plummeted to earth and hit the floor, and he bounced like a football. "Get up and stop whimpering," the Trunchbull barked. Rupert got up and went back to his desk, massaging his scalp with both hands. The Trunchbull returned to the front of the class. The children sat there quite hypnotised. They all sat there staring. None of them had seen anything quite like this before. It was splendid entertainment. It was better than a pantomime, but with one big difference. In this room there was an enormous human bomb in the front of them, which was liable to explode and blow someone to bits at any moment. The children's eyes were riveted on the headmistress. "I don't like small people," she was saying. "Small people should never be seen by anybody. They should be kept out of sight in boxes like hairpins and buttons. I cannot for the life of me see why children have to take so long to grow up. I think they do it on purpose." Another extremely brave boy in the front row spoke up and said, "But surely you were a small person once, Miss Trunchbull, weren't you?" "I have never been a small person," she snapped, "and I have been large all my life. I don't see why others can't be the same way." "But you must have started out as a baby," the boy said. "Me, a baby?" shouted the Trunchbull. "How dare you suggest such a thing? What a cheek! What an infernal insolence! What is your name, boy? And stand up when you speak to me." The boy stood up. "My name is Eric Ink, Miss Trunchbull," he said. "Eric what?" the Trunchbull said. "Ink," the boy said. "Don't be an arse, boy. There's no such name." "Look in the phone book," Eric said. "You'll see my father under Ink." "Very well then," Trunchbull said. "You may be Ink, young man, but let me tell you something. You're not inedible. You'll soon rub out, and if you're getting very clever with me, spell that." "I don't understand," Eric said. "What do you want me to spell?" "Spell what, you idiot? Spell the word what." "W-o-t," Eric said, answering too quickly. There was a nasty silence. "I'll give you one more chance," the Trunchbull said, not moving. "Oh, yes, I know. It's got a h in it. W-h-o-t. It's easy." In 2 large strides, the Trunchbull was behind Eric's desk, and there she stood, the pillar of doom towering down on the helpless boy. Eric glanced fearfully back over his shoulder at the monster. "I was right, wasn't I?" he murmured nervously. "You were wrong," the Trunchbull barked. "In fact, you strike me as a sort of poisonous little polemark that will always be wrong. You sit wrong, you look wrong, you speak wrong. You're wrong all round. I will give you one more chance to spell it right. Spell what?" Eric hesitated. Then he slowly said, "It's w-o-t. And it's not w-h-o-t. I know, it must be w-h-o-t. Standing behind Eric, the Trunchbull reached out and took the boy by the 2 ears, one in each hand, pinching them between the forefinger and the thumb. "Ow!" Eric cried. "You're hurting me." "I haven't started yet," the Trunchbull said briskly, and now, taking a firm grip of his 2 ears, she lifted him bodily out of his seat and held him aloft held him high. Like Rupert before him, Eric squealed the house down. From the back of the classroom, Miss Honey cried out, "Oh, Miss Trunchbull, please let him go. His ears might come off." "They'll never come off." The Trunchbull shouted back. "I have discovered through the long experience, Miss Honey, that ears of small boys are stuck firmly to their head." "Let him go, Miss Trunchbull, please," begged Miss Honey. "You could damage him, you really could. You could wrench them right off." "Ears never come off," Trunchbull shouted. "They stretch most marvellously, like these are doing now, but I assure you they will never come off." Eric was squealing louder than ever and pedalling with his legs in the air. Matilda had never seen a boy, or anyone else for that matter, held aloft by their ears alone. Like Miss Honey, she felt sure that both ears were going to come off at any moment, with all the weight that was on them. The Trunchbull was shouting, "The word what is spelled W-H-A-T. Now spell it, you little wart." Eric didn't hesitate. He learnt from watching Rupert a few minutes ago that the quicker you answer, the quicker you realise. "W-H-A-T, he squealed. "Spells what?" Still holding him by the ears, the Trunchbull lowered him back to his chair behind the desk. Then she marched to the front of the class, dusting her hands off once again, like someone who had been handling something rather grimy, which means dirty. "That's the way to make them learn, Miss Honey. You take it from me, it's no good just telling them. You've got to hammer it into them. There's nothing like a twisting and twiddling to encourage them to remember things. It concentrates their mind wonderfully." "You could permanently damage Miss Trunchbull," Miss Honey cried out. "Oh, I am quite sure I have," the Trunchbull answered, grinning. "Eric's ears will have been stretched quite considerably in the last couple of minutes. They're much longer now than they were before. There's nothing wrong with that, Miss Honey. It will give him an interesting pixie look for the rest of his life." "Oh, but Miss Trunchbull—" "Oh, do shut up, Miss Honey. You're as wet as any of them. If you can't cope in here, you can go and find a job in some cotton wool private school." "With rich brats. And then you have been teaching as long as I have, you'll realise that no good comes at all to being kind to children. Read Nicholas Nickleby, Miss Honey, by Dickens. Read about Wackford Squeers, the admirable headmaster of Dotheboys Boys. He knew how to handle little brutes, didn't he? He knew how to birch them, didn't he? He kept them on their backsides warm so you could have fried eggs and bacon on them. A fine book, that. But I don't suppose this bunch of morons you've got will ever be able to read it, because they look like they're not going to learn anything." "I've read it," Matilda said quietly. The Trunchbull flicked her head round and looked carefully at the small dark-haired girl with deep brown eyes sitting in the second row. "You did. What did you say?" she asked sharply. "I said I've read it, Miss Trunchbull." "Read what?" "Nicholas Nickleby, Miss Trunchbull." "You're lying to me, madame," the Trunchbull shouted, glaring at Matilda. "I doubt there's a single child in the whole school who's read that book. And here you are, unhatched shrimp, sitting at the lowest form there is, trying to tell me a whopping great lie like that. Why do you do it? You must take me for a fool. Do you take me for a fool, child?" "Well," Matilda said. She hesitated. She would have liked to have said, "Yes, I jolly well do," but that would have been suicide. "Well," she said, again still hesitating, refusing to say no. The Trunchbull sensed that the child was thinking, and she didn't like it. "Stand up when you speak to me," she snapped. "What's your name?" Matilda stood up. "My name is Matilda Wormwood, Miss Trunchbull." "Wormwood, is it?" the Trunchbull said. "In that case, I must show you the daughter of the man who owns Wormwood Motors." "Yes, Miss Trunchbull." "He's a crook," the Trunchbull shouted. "A week ago he sold me a second-hand car. He said it was almost new. I thought he was a splendid fellow then, but this morning, while I was driving the car through the village, the entire engine fell out on the road. The whole thing was filled with sawdust. The man's a thief and a robber. I'll have his skin for sausages, you see if I don't." "He's clever at his business," Matilda said. "Clever my foot!" the Trunchbull shouted. "Miss Honey tells me you're meant to be clever too. Well, madame, I don't like clever people. They're all crooked. You must certainly crooked. Before I fell out with your father, he told me some nasty stories about the way you behaved at home. You better not try anything like this in this school, young lady. I shall be keeping a very careful eye on you from now on. Sit down and keep quiet. So that is the end of the chapter. So a lot has happened in this chapter. Trunchbull's taken the class. She's tested the children. Some of the children haven't got it right, so she's pulled them up by their hair. She's pulled them by their ears, and she's made them feel, probably sure she's hurt them, she's probably made them feel embarrassed and scared and quite sore. But nothing has happened yet with the jug and the glass that Lavender put in. So maybe that will happen in the next chapter. Well done for today, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you back for another chapter tomorrow. Bye.